Welcome to week 3. I hope that everything made sense with week 2, now that we're kind of into the meat of the class, and that spirituals and the blues kind of made sense. I hope at the time I'm recording this, I haven't seen all of your work yet because I'm trying to stay ahead. So I haven't seen all your work and gotten your feedback yet on the assignment. So I'm hoping everything was pretty self-explanatory. And that you've learned a little something so far because we're just getting started. So spirituals and the blues, I consider they're linked, right? Because spirituals evolved into the blues throughout our history. So I consider them part 1A and part 1B because they're very much interlinked. The next chunk we're going to start looking into today is Tin Pan Alley, which has kind of an odd name, and I'm going to explain why as we go into this. So here we go. Tin Pan Alley is the name given to a collection of New York City music publishers and songwriters who dominated popular music in the U.S. during the late 1800s and early 1900s. The start of Tin Pan Alley is usually dated to about 1885, when several music publishers set up shop in the same area of Manhattan. So usually at this point in my class, we look at Google Maps real quick just to know where Manhattan is, because some folks do not know or have not taken geography. But Manhattan is New York City, essentially. So, and I'm assuming most of you know New York is a state, but there's also a city called New York City. So right here on the map, we have New York State. Like here we are in Ohio, right down here, Pennsylvania, New York. But if you zoom in, you see there's a second New York right here. That's New York City. So we're going to zoom in. Okay, and it's way down here on the water. Let's go on satellite so we can see a little better. I love playing with Google Maps. I could do this all day. Okay, so we zoom in. She's loading. Okay, so we see here we have all this. You can see all this is city and developed land, right? The green would be more of your fields and things, right? So and the blue over here is water. So when you get closer, you see that all of this technically is New York City, but there are different they're called boroughs, right? These different boroughs, like maybe you've heard of Harlem or Brooklyn or the Bronx, right? But this middle island right here, it kind of looks like a little peninsula. This is, well, I guess it is a peninsula technically. This little piece of land is what's referred to as Manhattan, okay? You can see that right here. So down on the very edge of Manhattan is where the financial Lower Manhattan. This is where the big, tall skyscrapers are that you see, in the movies. This is where the Twin Towers were, and now where World Trade Center 1 is. Very, very famous. There also is, so like a lot of the early, I don't know if you've seen Hamilton or read about the Revolutionary War, but New York was where a lot of the really early founding America stuff was going on, right? Before DC was the capital, before the White House was even built, New York City was kind of where it was, that's where everything was happening. So right in this area, Trinity Church has been there since the dawn of time. That's where Alexander Hamilton's buried. There's a building, I don't know exactly where it is, right in this area. I don't know if it's Federal Hall, if that's what it is. Yes, that's it, Federal Hall. That's where George Washington, I believe, was sworn in as the president, because again, this is before the White House and everything. So New York is very much tied to early American history and a definite cultural epicenter nowadays. But anyway, I digress. So Tin Pan Alley was somewhere in here. I don't remember the exact address. We can look that up later. But somewhere in here was Tin Pan Alley over 100 years ago. And it was where music business really got its start. It was the first time that churning out like hit records, or, well, they weren't really records at the time. They were sheet music, okay? So churning out hits that could be played on the piano or sung by your group of friends that came over to hang out at your house or whatever. That was where this kind of idea started. And the idea of copywriting songs and making money off of them and selling the rights to these songs, that all got its start at Tin Pan Alley in Manhattan, which is in New York City. Okay, I hope that kind of cleared that up if you were unfamiliar with your New York City basics. Also, if you've ever heard of Central Park, if you've ever watched Law and Order, there's always a body found in Central Park, right? And but I like to think that does not happen nearly as often as portrayed on television. But this giant rectangle of green, that's Central Park. It's literally in the center of the island. Pretty cool to look at from up above, right? Okay, we'll get rid of Google Maps. And we're back over here. Okay, so the specific address was on West 28th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue in Manhattan. The song publishers who created Tin Pan Alley frequently had backgrounds as salesmen. The music houses in Lower Manhattan were lively places with a steady stream of songwriters, vaudeville, and Broadway performers. Excuse me. So a vaudeville is kind of like a mini stage circus. Okay, kind of. They would have performing acts that could be singers. They could be more like something more akin to like a air quotes freak show, like people that would swallow swords or juggle, or they had a lot of acts with animals, dogs jumping through hoops, or maybe they'd have some exotic animals like a monkey or like something. Something where you'd pay a nickel or whatever, and you'd go sit and you'd watch a little stage show. That's a vaudeville. And a lot of these early vaudevilles, they would have someone playing the piano as like the background for the show. Okay, so picture almost like a weird talent show with someone playing a soundtrack. Because again, you couldn't just put on a playlist or put on a CD. You had to have someone actually play the music, right? So that's what a vaudeville is. And Broadway is like a stage musical. So if anyone has heard of like Wicked or Beauty and the Beast on Broadway, or, there's thousands of musicals. Most of them that you may have heard of maybe have been turned into movies. So Broadway is also a street in New York City where a lot of these theaters are and where these musicals took place then and take place now. It looks a little different now, more high tech, but same idea. So these composers, musicians, and song pluggers were frequently coming and going from the offices. So imagine a house that's been converted into a bunch of offices, and everyone in there is like writing music and composing music and buying music and selling music. And it kind of became like this business just in a house, and everyone is sitting in there playing piano and coming up with songs and trying to make some money. It'd be a sight to see. I wish I could go back in time and see it. So a song plugger is a pianist and a singer who made their living demonstrating songs to try and sell sheet music. So someone in the office is like, hey, we have this new song. It's called Orange Water Bottle. Okay, so they have the song. It's called Orange Water Bottle. The song plugger learns how to play it. They go out and they're like, hey, everybody, look at this new hit song. La, 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 la. Orange Water Bottle, dink, dink, dink. And then they try and get people to buy that sheet music so they can go home, learn how to play Orange Water Bottle, and entertain all their friends, right? And if a song made it into like a big hit, maybe it would be put on some sort of early record. Again, the early years of Tin Pan Alley, that wasn't so much. Later, it did become more of a thing, I believe. But anyway, so that's what a song plugger would do. Now, they were a little tricky, and we'll go into why here. So song pluggers were employed by the publishers to travel and familiarize the public with their new music. Among the ranks of song pluggers were George Gershwin and Irving Berlin, which are two very famous names in music history. Both Gershwin and Berlin would go on to become very famous composers. The song pluggers would sometimes buy dozens of tickets to their own shows, infiltrating the audience and then singing the song to be plugged, giving the illusion of popularity. So one song plugger would be on stage and all the other song pluggers would dress up in different clothes and pretend to just be audience members, and they'd sing along like, oh, I love this one, even if the song was brand new, to get people into it, right? Because that's how it is. If you see someone else singing something, you're like, oh, it must be good. So then you'd buy it or talk about it or whatever. So they were a little tricky, those song pluggers. George Gershwin and Irving Berlin will both have songs that are on the listening jots below. I guarantee some of you have heard their melodies, even if you don't know that you have. Maybe not the ones that are on the test or the quiz, the unit, but I guarantee you've heard some of their stuff at some point in your life. So aspiring songwriters would come to Tin Pan Alley and they would demonstrate music they hope to sell. So I wrote a song. It's called Face Mask. I go to Tin Pan Alley. I go into the office. Hey, I've got this great song for you. It's called Face Mask. Face Mask. Great. And they're like, huh, we'll give you $20 for it. And I might be like, heck yeah, $20. So then they turn around, mass produce the song, make a bunch of money, and I don't see any of that money. That's one of the tricks they would pull. Or another one would be they'd say, Face Mask is a good song, but let's put Irving Berlin's name on it and you second. And then Irving Berlin winds up getting a bunch of the money that should have been for me since I wrote the song. So that's another way they would kind of trick people who didn't know what they were doing. And that's why you always have a manager when you go into a business meeting. So yeah, I kind of already explained the second paragraph. When songs were purchased from unknown writers with no previous hits, the name of someone with the Tin Pan Alley firm was often added as a co-composer to make the firm more money. Sometimes all the rights to the song would be purchased outright for a flat fee, my $20, but then all future profits would go to the publisher. Initially, Tin Pan Alley specialized in melodramatic ballads and comic novelty songs, but it embraced the newly popular styles of the cakewalk and ragtime music. A cakewalk is kind of like musical chairs. They were often like fundraisers in ye olden times, right? You'd have everyone in the community would bake a cake or pie or whatever, and you'd walk around in a circle, and there'd be different numbers, and someone would be playing a song on the piano, and when the music stopped, whatever square you were on was your number, and they'd pull a number, kind of like a raffle. And if you were standing like, number 8, if you were standing on square 8 in the circle, you got to pick a cake. And that was kind of a thing people would do, either a social event or a fundraiser for like a church or a school or whatever. So that's what a cakewalk is. So a type of music called a cakewalk would be a piece used to literally play at a cakewalk. So that's what that is. And ragtime is like, most of you have probably heard The Entertainer, the one that's like, essentially music you would hear now on a carousel, like a merry-go-round. That's ragtime. So it started off not doing that stuff so much, and then it kind of embraced the more jazzy, cakewalky, ragtime type music. Later on, jazz and blues were incorporated as Tin Pan Alley typically produced songs that amateur singers could perform from printed music. In the 1910s and 20s, Tin Pan Alley published pop songs and dance numbers created in the newly popular jazz and blues styles. So this kind of brings together Tin Pan Alley and the blues, which also has spirituals in its past, right? So that's where part 1 and 2 kind of start to mesh together, and we're getting this brew of rock and roll kind of coming out of it. So pictures here, the first one, I know it's kind of small. Let's see if I can zoom in here a little bit. This one right here is the actual building where Tin Pan Alley was, and you see they have signs up like, hey, come on in and buy a song, music publisher, or whatever. So that's what's going on there. Here is the cover of a piece of sheet music for a famous song from back in the day called Come Josephine and My Flying Machine. It's about taking a girl up in an airplane, right? Very famous song in the early 1900s. And so that's like the cover. That's what you'd buy. You'd go in and, well, maybe not in this location, but you would buy it in a store, right? And you'd open it, and then the sheet music would be inside, and you'd learn how to play it. And you'd entertain all your friends, and everyone would want to hang out with you because you can play the Josephine song. This photo on the far side is a cool photo because it's got a bunch of folks gathered around a piano, probably writing something. But the man at the piano is George Gershwin, a very, very famous composer and song plugger in his early days. Okay, so for your assignment, you're going to go into, you're going to open another Google Doc, just like last week, and you're going to define these 4 terms: Tin Pan Alley, Manhattan, song pluggers, vaudeville. All right. And you've got your Whodats here. There's 2 of them. I'll give you a clue. It's the only 2 names I mentioned in the above text. You just have to figure out which one is which. And remember, all that is on the Google site. Okay, so if you go to the Google site, hopefully you've bookmarked it by now. If you can't find it, it is on the classwork bit in, it's linked in, it's on the Google Classroom. I will double check after I make this video and make sure that link is there, okay? And that's where the site is. Hopefully you have it bookmarked, but if not, I will double check and make sure it's there. I know for sure it's on the stream. You might have to scroll down a bit. Okay, and then we have 6 songs, okay? And again, these correlate with Spotify, so we're still on the Origins playlist, right? We've got our blues stuff, And it's going to start right here with Give My Regards to Broadway, which is the cheesiest, squarest, whitest, like, hey, song you'll ever hear in your life. It's very amusing. And then Let Me Call You Sweetheart, Taking You Out to the Ball Game, which I'm sure you all know, and I bet you didn't know that was a Tin Pan Alley song, but it is/was. God Bless America. Again, most of you people probably know that one as well, right? I believe in you guys. And the Josephine in My Flying Machine song, and I Got Rhythm, which was by George Gershwin. But in this, it is performed by Judy Garland, who actually was in The Wizard of Oz. So there you go. And again, a lot of these songs that were written by these Tin Pan Alley folks weren't necessarily performed by them. Okay? In this instance, I don't think any of these are. They're all being covered or sung by other people than the artists who wrote them. So when we get to the quiz, there will be nothing on there about knowing, there'll be nothing on there about needing to know those artists. That's going to come up soon in this class, so just be aware. Okay. I think that's everything. If you have any questions, please email me. Please bookmark all these sites so you have them, because we're going to be using the same sites the entire semester. Okay. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.